let's now talk about Elon Musk and why I've issued this challenge. And I hope all of you listening to this, get this out to Elon and stop thinking he's your savior. Stop calling him Elon like people call Bobby Kennedy Bobby. He's not your fucking friend. Excuse my language. He isn't. And you're going to see why. He's got to remove that portal if he's so into free speech. Let's make him live by his words. Well, what does Elon say? What is Elon's definition of free speech? By free speech, he says, I simply mean that which matches the law. Okay, so we shouldn't violate the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people. Let me ask you, Carlos and Crystal, is this going beyond the law? This is going way beyond the law. Elon Musk says we should live with the law, but who the hell created this? There's no law saying that government should have a backroom portal to big tech companies to silence speech and launder censorship. So if Elon Musk wants to live by his words, I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. This is way freaking beyond the law.
Absolutely. They've created something to be able to violate our First Amendment. And he needs to bring it down, or he bought this Twitter to be back in the same spot that Twitter was before, censoring all Americans and investigating Americans and not allowing them to speak freely under the First Amendment. So it's a complete violation of the Constitution, and he's not doing anything different than anyone else has done.
Yeah, and again, Carlos, I want to bring it back. This is what he said on April 2022. By free speech, I mean simply that which matches law. I am against censorship that goes beyond the law. And to everyone with common sense who doesn't want to bow down to a false god, this is way beyond the law. There was no law saying that these rogues over here at Harvard and MIT and the CISA could create this portal to take out a U.S. Senate candidate who was simply exposing government malfeasance. It's the highest protection.
I agree with you, Dr. Shiva. You see, this is what I want to clarify. I think CISA it was something that might have been of interest to some at the time it was created, and it might have had a good will when it was created, but it's being used for spying and censorship of American citizens and American politicians. That's where the problem comes in.
Right. That is, and the important thing to recognize, Carlos, is in the Long Fuse report, they say it boldly. We want to create an infrastructure that we know, according to the Constitution, this was done malevolently. We cannot silence and surveil and censor domestic U.S. citizens. So we needed to fill in the gap. That's what they say. And fill in the gap is this stuff right here. You see, the ISAC infrastructure. So government here could go through an NGO created by Pierre Omidyar and funded by him and DHS to take out people. So let me continue. So let's go back. So Elon Musk said this back on April. I'm against censorship that goes far beyond the law. Well, on October 28th, he said the same thing. I'm against censorship that goes far beyond the law. The day he comes into Twitter, he fires this nut job, Vijay Agade, who is a chief counsel, who's a nut, who's a colonialist from India, who doesn't believe in the First Amendment. That was great. He goes, let that sink in. Good. But on that same day, why didn't he take down this censorship portal? What was Elon thinking? So the question I have for you, Carlos, is that when you buy a company, remember, the company purchase started around April, May. You get all your due diligence documents.
Absolutely.
Any way that Elon Musk would not have known that this portal existed? I mean, our lawsuit was the only lawsuit where Twitter was dragged into federal court.
Elon Musk has some of the best attorneys in this country. When you do your due diligence on a company like Twitter, he would have known, first of all, the lawsuit that was filed, the TRO that you were involved with, TRO, that would be one of the due diligence documents that would pop up, and he would read it. He would realize what the lawsuit was about. It was censorship, and it's all spelled out in there. The portal's in there, everything's spelled out in there. So he would definitely know. There's no way that his high-priced lawyers wouldn't have communicated this to him. I believe he's just afraid of losing his immunity of Section 230 and is going to accept whatever there is. And we're going to be back at square one, just like Kanye West. He went ahead and deplatformed Kanye West, took him off because he said that he likes this and he likes that. I don't agree with the things that he says, but I think that you're allowed to say, oh, I like Fidel Castro, and you don't get deplatformed. But if you say, I like the Nazis, I like some of their concepts, you get deplatformed. That is not fighting speech. That's not what the Constitution says, that you're supposed to be limited. That is free speech, and you can have opinions on all sorts of stuff. So when the left talk about Fidel Castro was a great man, that's okay. But Kanye West goes ahead and says what he says, and he's off. what is he doing? We're back to square one. And you know what? I think there's a bigger power involved, which is it's not even him. He is in bed with these guys, and there's nothing he can do, because if not, he bought a company that's worthless, because if he gets thrown off and it's not a platform anymore, he loses revenue. He loses what the value of this company is.
Let me bring in Crystal Ellis. Crystal, when you learned about all this, you still have your Twitter account. You went on to Twitter Stream, right, Crystal? And you started sharing directly under Elon's tweet, you started sharing all the censorship diagram, and you asked Elon, why have you still not put back in Dr. Shiva?
Correct.
And you kept doing these tweets. What happened, Crystal? Can you tell the audience what took place?
Well, I started when he took over just to plant those seeds as early as possible. And what had happened is when it came to this recent, whatever, it's actually like a hangout that they're doing in the space, the Twitter space. And Clayton had brought up your situation. I had then started tweeting.
Well, let's just stop right here. Let's just give some detail, because I just want to be clear here. So you've been tweeting at Elon, telling him, informing him. By the way, many hundreds of thousands of people have been educating Elon on this. So he can't say he didn't know. 3 days ago, on December 3rd, he says, I'm going to be very transparent. He had all of his grifter friends around him, and they decided to do this Twitter Spaces thing. Only select people they chose on. Right. One of the guys they chose on to ask him a question is a guy called Clayton Morris, who had done a story on us exposing the fact that we were the ones who exposed his infrastructure. It wasn't The Intercept. Mm-hmm. And Clayton got in to ask Elon Musk a question, and he asked him, Elon, Dr. Shiva's lawsuit exposed this infrastructure. Is it still alive at Twitter? Elon Musk did not answer the question. He didn't deny it. He just said, ooh, that would be Big Brother if it was. And then he went on to say, I got to dig into it. I'll get back to you. I'm going to dig into it. As though he didn't know this back, Carlos, to your point, when he did due diligence back in April, May. He still has to dig into it. How far is he going to dig? Until he gets to China? Okay. So go ahead, Crystal. So you were tweeting on Elon Musk's timeline, and then what happened?
I also was tweeting to the hosts. I found some of the host names. And so I would go to their page, and I was not just tweeting them, but I was actually attaching you're allowed 4 photos. So I attached the letter that you wrote to him with your phone number to call. And I used some of the slides that you had with the diagram with the censorship infrastructure, along with a picture of Pierre Omidyar. And I think I took the tip of the iceberg screenshot from one of your slides as well, talking about they're just letting out a partial truth there. And I thought everything was fine. And the next day I woke up and I go check Twitter and go to his account, and everything's grayed out. I can no longer comment. I cannot like, share, or retweet any of his posts, his tweets anymore. So I'm able to view his profile. I cannot interact with it at all.
Yeah. So thanks, Crystal. So the bottom line is this. The reason we're doing this event today, and we want to thank Carlos and Crystal, it's late, and we want to do this is because we want to educate people to expand your thing beyond left and right. This is not something personal between me and Elon, but the bottom line, you have a very idiot person here saying Dr. Shiva's prissy, won't give him credit. That's not the issue, you fool. The reality is that we're trying to educate you that in our lawsuit, just to give you what occurred with our lawsuit, the judge, we had multiple claims. One was to get back on Twitter. The other 6 claims were I wanted to hold government accountable. The judge then appointed me a constitutional lawyer. He said, wow, this case is, you've done a brilliant job in doing all this. He goes, I want to give you a constitutional lawyer. Well, the lawyer was a setup. The lawyer 3 days before the next hearing said, oh, you're going to become the biggest hero. You'll be the first one back on Twitter, but drop all the claims against the government. And I had to fire the lawyer 3 days before. He had 7 weeks to do the briefs, had done nothing. I had to stay awake 3 days a night to do 3,000 pages of briefs. And then the judge gets upset at me because he thought I would be so happy just to be on Twitter. So to the naive people out there, it's not about me getting on Twitter. This is about the fact that my parents came from India here and Carlos's parents came from Cuba here for one word, freedom. And that freedom is being violated. And if I just wanted to be on Twitter, I could have done that and I could have settled the lawsuit and walked away. In fact, the judge sealed our lawsuit and forced me to just file one claim. And then I walked away because I didn't want to be a hero just getting back on Twitter. So it's not about me getting on Twitter. This is about exposing the depths of the evil that is taking place against the First Amendment. That's what this is about.